Hey guys, welcome to the video. I am so excited for you to be here today because today we are starting a new series on the channel. In this series, we are going to go over how to completely declutter your house from start to finish in a reasonable amount of time. I think a lot of people have started decluttering their house, but the finishing is a little bit more challenging. And I think there are a few reasons that this happens. It is much easier to start something than it is to finish, especially a massive project like decluttering your house. So throughout this series, we are going to go over the important key steps that you need to take to make sure your house gets completely decluttered. Now you may be wondering why it is so hard to finish the task of decluttering your house. And I think there are a few key reasons for this. The first reason this happens is because people don't really know how long it should take to declutter their house. And when you don't have a definite timeline for something, it can just take forever. You have probably heard of Parkinson's principle, and that is the principle that states that however long you give something to take place is how long it will take for you to do it. So basically, if you give yourself an hour to get ready, it will take you an hour to get ready. Or if you give yourself 30 minutes to get ready, it will take you 30 minutes to get ready. So the same applies to decluttering. Obviously, you can't declutter your entire house in 30 minutes, but it also shouldn't take you 6 months or a year to complete this project. So we're going to talk about in this video how long it should take you. Another reason a lot of people get stuck in this decluttering process is they don't have anything or anybody that is keeping them accountable to the process. And when you have no accountability for something that's already pretty hard to do, it can be really easy to just put it off and say, I'll get to that tomorrow, I'll get to that tomorrow. And before you know it, weeks and months and maybe even years have gone by and you still haven't finished decluttering your house. Another reason a lot of people struggle with the decluttering process, whether it's getting started or finishing the project, is that their families are less than enthusiastic about the decluttering process. Change can be really hard, especially when it involves more than one person. And the last big reason that a lot of people struggle with starting and finishing a decluttering project is that they have some mindsets that are holding them back. So let's go ahead and dig into this video because throughout this series, I am going to give you some tools that will help you overcome each one of these barriers for decluttering your home. But if you just can't wait for the rest of this series to come out and you want to dig into decluttering right away, I will be hosting a free live workshop, and there is a link that you can sign up for that workshop in the description down below. And at the end of the workshop, I will also be having a live Q&A, so bring any questions that you have because I would love to chat with you during that time and help you out on your decluttering journey. All right, let's dig into this video where we are going to go over the first few things that you need to do if you want to completely declutter your home. The first thing that you want to do is you want to give yourself a time limit. Just like we talked about in those hurdles, a lot of people just let it take as long as it needs to take, and that usually means it takes too long. So I suggest giving yourself a time limit of 8 to 12 weeks, but the closer to 8 weeks, the better, because that will push you a little bit harder and make sure that you stay on task and stick with your project. So the second thing you need to do is once you set your timeline, you also need to give yourself a deadline. You need to figure out when you are going to start this project and when it is going to end. And that will also make it easier for you to stay focused when you know you only have to do it for a certain amount of time. And you can easily look on your calendar and see when the difficult part of decluttering will be over. Then once you know your timeline, you want to look at your calendar during that time that you're giving yourself for decluttering, and you want to make sure you clear off anything that you don't need to be doing and you are making appointments for yourself to declutter your house. I recommend putting some time on your calendar every single day to commit to this project, plus a little bit more time on the weekends. Unfortunately, I can't give you an exact amount of time that you need to work on your project because I can't see your house and I don't know how much work you have to do. But you can see your house, so look around, assess the amount of work that needs to be done, and put some time on your calendar. Then you want to make sure as you are going through this process that you keep those appointments with yourself and that you actually work on decluttering your house every time you see that on your calendar. I also recommend during this time that you are decluttering your house that you take a break from anything that you don't actually need to be doing. Maybe this is taking a break from your kids' sports teams or maybe even music lessons for a few weeks. But the payoff at the end of having a decluttered house and being able to be more fully present for any activities that you do will be so worth it, and you won't regret taking this short hiatus so you can really get your house completely decluttered. Now, this next step I think is the hardest of any that we have discussed in this video, and it's looking at yourself and figuring out which mindsets do you have that are currently holding you back and keeping you living in a cluttered house. There must be some reason for this, because you know that you don't enjoy living in clutter, but yet you haven't been able to completely declutter your house so that you can have less stress and more peace. Now, obviously, there can be many reasons why you may be struggling with clutter in your home, but I'm just going to go over 5 of the most common reasons that I see so that you can start thinking about which mindsets may be holding you back. The first big mindset that I think holds a lot of people back is organizing instead of decluttering. A lot of people think they just need to organize their stuff, and if they could just get a better organization system, then everything would be fine and they wouldn't have their stuff overflowing everywhere. And I personally think that this is one of the biggest lies that commercialism sells to moms. Because of course they want us to keep buying a whole bunch of stuff for our house and for our families because, well, that helps them make more money. But then they also want to sell us all of these cubbies and bins and baskets and caboodles and everything else that we need to organize all of the stuff that we bought to put in our house. So here's the truth about organizing your things. There are some areas in your house, like pantries and bathrooms and junk drawers, that you may need some organizational items to help keep those places neat and tidy. But for the most part, in most areas of your house and with most things, if you feel like you need to get a bunch of organizational items, bins, baskets, things like that, it probably means that you have too much stuff and you need to do more decluttering. The second mindset that holds a lot of people back is gifts. It can be a real struggle to part with something that you know somebody spent money on and that they gave you because they love you. When it comes to gifts, I really like how Marie Kondo says to deal with gifts, and that is to think about the time when you received the gift and to realize that the gift accomplished its purpose when it was exchanged between people. The person who gave it to you showed you that they loved you. You felt love when you received the gift, and that was the purpose of the gift. You holding on to a gift forever that you may or may not like doesn't give the gift more special powers in showing you that the person loved you. It honestly just has the potential to fill you with guilt because you don't like it more than you do, and that it's still just sitting in your closet and you haven't dealt with it after all this time. Another way to think about gifts is if you gave someone a gift and they didn't truly love it, would you want them holding on to it forever? Or would you rather that they sell the gift and then purchase something that they truly love and would use with the gift's money? Now, I know some people have a love language of gifts and it can be especially hard for them to part with these gifts. But again, I would challenge you, instead of holding on to these gifts indefinitely, see if you could call the person who gave you that gift more. And if they live close by, see if you could get together and spend some time with them. Because that's really the point, isn't it? When we love somebody, we want to spend time with them and we want to get to know them better. And holding on to an object isn't actually accomplishing either of these things. The third mindset that holds a lot of people back is having sentimental items that they don't know what to do with. Now, I know sentimental things can be a challenge because when you just have them in a box somewhere, it's really easy not to think about them. But as soon as you open up the box, then all of these memories come back and you have all these warm feelings about the items, and it's hard to part with them in that moment. So what I suggest for sentimental items is if you truly love them, then use them or display them. A lot of people have china, maybe from a grandparent or a parent, but they keep it in a box and they never use it. Well, I would argue if you're keeping it in a box that maybe you don't love it that much. And if you do truly love it, bring it out, use the china. If something breaks, it's not the end of the world. And I'm sure your grandma would much rather you use the china than just have it sitting in a box in your garage. The same goes for items that maybe aren't as useful, but maybe you could display them. Maybe it's a piece of art or a trinket or something like that. If you truly love it, find a place in your house where you can see it often. And if you don't want to do either of those things that I just mentioned, then you probably don't love it as much as you think you do. Challenging mindset number 4 is books. I know a lot of people have a really hard time decluttering their books, and I totally understand that. I personally love to read, and I used to keep every single book that I had ever read as kind of a trophy of, look at this book that I have read, and if you've read it too, let's talk about it. But I found for myself that it was much better once I started realizing if I'm not going to read this book again, I might as well pass it on to somebody else who will. And it doesn't take away from the fact that I read the book. It just means that I don't need it still in my house, taking up space visually or physically. I used to keep a bookshelf in my living room, but I found for myself, once I took that bookshelf out of the main living area, it was much more freeing visually for me. I much preferred to look at the clean spaces than I did to look at a bookshelf full of various books and titles and covers that didn't really go together, and it just honestly was a lot to take in visually. Now, I know books are different for different people. My mom, for example, will not ever part with most of her books. She just loves them. She really enjoys the way books look, and she likes to display them out and about. Different people have different preferences for things like that, and that is okay. As long as you look at and realize, do I actually enjoy this? Do I want to see it all the time? Or would it be better if I could get rid of some of this, if I can pass them on, maybe give some to a library, or some people that I know that maybe can't afford books? There are so many ways that you can put the things that you have that are too much to use for somebody else who maybe doesn't have enough. And the fifth and last mindset that holds a lot of people back is decluttering for their entire family, especially their kids. And this is a big one because it's somebody else's things, but yet you know that it is too much stuff for your child to be able to manage. So because this is such a huge topic, we are actually going to dive into this one in the next video, and I am going to show you how to get your entire family on board with your decluttering project so that you won't be meeting resistance at every corner. Again, don't forget to sign up for that free workshop if you are interested in digging in and getting your decluttering started right away. I would love to chat with you during the Q&A, so bring any questions that you have to that. As always, I am Kassy with makingtimeforgiggles.com, and I make videos all about simplifying mom life. On this channel, we talk about decluttering, meal planning, routines, and budgeting. So if that sounds like something you would be into, feel free to subscribe down below and ring that bell next to it so you can be notified when the next video comes out. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.